Chick-fil-A actually specializes in making chicken club sandwiches.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Like
but,
Popeyes has a variety of items. They have like the.
But I mean, it's all chicken for the most part too. So
Exactly. I don't see the Electoral College ever leaving. It's something that has been there since the foundation of this country. So I don't think that he'd have to go through a lot of roadblocks to try to actually get rid of the Electoral College.
But what I'm saying is like, is that really gonna be effective?
Well, getting rid of it in the first
like,
place?
it's
No,
not.
of course
yeah,
not, man.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of the stuff that I feel like he's saying, it's just like
To get people
to
like
get sound bites. Yeah, to get
yeah.
people riled. He's doing what Trump did, but on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's what
You know,
these
and
candidates do.
I've told you before. I feel like Bernie is the Trump, of the Democrats.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. We're live. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on, man? I'm ready. Just had my chicken sandwich from Popeyes.
Oh, yeah? You just had your chicken sandwich from Popeyes? Hey, man, how is that?
Man, I didn't even get it today. I went. They had a sign on the door. It says we're going to be serving the chicken sandwiches only on Sunday, only from 5 to 7 p.m.
For real? What?
Imagine that
Is
shit,
there
man.
really that much of a demand for them now?
Yeah, man. Everywhere you go, every single one you go to, there's a fucking goddamn line for it.
That's crazy, though. Like, how is it that a sandwich got so popular?
Just social media, dude. Like, mostly I feel like it's Twitter. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's fucking narrating a lot of a lot of the content that we're seeing nowadays.
Yeah. But you know what gets me,
it's a
though?
big part, man.
What gets me really fucked up, or, like, that gets me really, like, interested in this whole thing is, like, how is it that this thing blew up right out of proportion, like, from just one single post? Because it started with one single post. Like, Popeyes posted their sandwich, and there was, like, it was, like, this weird, like, it had this weird caption, like, oh, I can't find the words for new chicken sandwich, right? I'm not sure if
I
you
can't
saw
even
it.
speak in complete sentences.
Yeah, that one. So you saw it then.
Yeah.
That's what set the whole thing. That's what set the ball rolling. Basically, that one post, and like, for me, that's like, how did that become such a big deal? It's the major like Instagram pages, the major Twitter pages that started promoting it though, like Funny Hood Vids and stuff. They're the ones that started putting it out there, and like I don't know exactly if there's something to do with like Popeyes paying any of these social media sites or like paying people to like promote them, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's gonna be some kind of like promotion going on. Like, I mean, things can blow up like that the way memes and like those vines do.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's like, okay, someone told them to say this or repost this or retweet this or like this, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Like, it's like, that whole like Sarah's weight loss plan thing.
Yeah.
Like that, or like the Fashion Nova thing. Like every now
That's
and
on
then,
Instagram,
like
though, yeah.
every now and then, a popular Instagram page or like whatever, they'll post like, oh, check this out, or like the fake AirPods, because they pay them to put that out there. But like, I feel when people realize that they're getting paid to put this out there, like, if you check the comments, they'll tell you like, oh, like this, the unfollow button is looking really good right now, or like something like that. People hate when people get paid to promote their product.
Because that shit's corny, man. Like, especially the way they do it, it's really like stupid. Like, they have literally the corniest videos.
Yeah. So
Have
it's like, for me, it's like, all right, I get it. Like, people hate that, and then it makes sense if Popeyes like paid them without them by telling them like, oh, hey, like after they pay them, they're probably like, oh, hey, just don't make it obvious that you're promoting us, because people don't like that. Obviously, the products that they're promoting, like, just like obviously that they're promoting them, like those products aren't popular because of the simple fact that the people know that they're paying to get their name out there, And I think that Popeyes avoided this by making it a trend, like disguising their promotion or disguising their advertisement as a trend.
Definitely. But I mean, the sandwich lives up to it.
Yeah, was it really that good?
I mean, to me, some people, I don't know if it's just because they want to be on the outside of the group, but it was a really good sandwich, honestly. I mean, a lot of people kept asking me like, oh, like, is it better than Chick-fil-A?
Is it
better than Chick-fil-A?
You know what? I should have brought a sandwich.
The thing is, as a whole, I don't think Popeyes is better than Chick-fil-A. And the sandwich is a close second.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel way better eating at a Chick-fil-A than I do at a Popeyes. Like, when have you ever seen a clean Popeyes,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
I guess
it's just little things. It's just like
Yeah.
little things that get you. It's not just the food. It's the service. It's the way they serve it. You know, like it's like you said, the promotion. Like
Yeah. Or is it the simple fact that Chick-fil-A actually specializes in making chicken club sandwiches?
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Like
but,
Popeyes has a variety of items. They have like the.
but I mean, it's all chicken for the most part too. So
That makes sense, right? But it's not their main thing. Like Chick-fil-A's slogan is like the original chicken sandwich,
that's true.
which is like that's like your go-to to go get a chicken sandwich. Popeyes is more like just fried chicken.
Yeah,
But I just don't understand it. Like, how is it that something like a Popeyes chicken sandwich gets blown out of proportion without the proper hype behind it? I feel like people got paid to make it look like there was hype when there really wasn't, and then that stirred the hype after.
Yeah, honestly, because the first like 2 days that it came out, I went and I tried it, and when I went, there was like maybe like 2 people in line,
Yeah.
and one of them didn't even get a chicken sandwich. Like and there was people already there just eating like chicken tenders or their pieces of chicken or whatever it was, you know?
Yeah. Like you're telling me now that they're only serving the sandwich from certain times.
Yeah,
That's what like gets me like.
Yeah, I saw the sign and I was gonna take a picture too.
Yeah, because like look, like I said, there was no proper hype for this sandwich, and then like you said, you went in there and then there was like no one there getting the sandwich.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna finish. Like it's just crazy. Like I was about to take a picture, like just to show you, you know. But I'm like, man, like in these time and days, like you believe that shit, you know, like
What? Believe what?
about the sign. Like they're only serving it from 5 to 7, like legit. It says 5 to 7.
That's
And the
crazy.
thing is, they only have like one person on register, like one person cooking, or maybe like 2. You know, they'll have
Yeah.
like 4 employees, 5 max.
I heard that
And everyone that I've been to, I'm like, God damn.
I was looking this up and I read an article that said something like that like Popeyes got ever since they started putting out their chicken sandwich, they've received at least $35 million from just the
Yeah.
chicken sandwich alone.
Like after the first week, I think just from the chicken sandwiches, they made something like 24 point something million.
Yeah.
Just off that chicken sandwich, like just chicken sandwich, they're not including the rest of like, you know, their items in the menu.
And you know, it's kind of funny when you think about it because some people get offended at these numbers, or people get offended that this thing is getting blown out of proportion like this because some people are more interested in what's going on in the Amazon forest and stuff, and they're like, oh, I can't believe that social media is covering all this about the fucking chicken sandwich and not the Amazon forest.
Yeah, that's kind of why I opened up with this, because it's like a good transition. Like it just goes to show how much social media can affect and get people like riled up, you know, like moving a little away from the fire. Like the whole thing with the earth only having like a certain amount of time before, you know, before there's no going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
There's like I forgot what it's called,
Timeline.
but yeah, basically they say that after a certain extent of burning out a planet like this, there's no point of regression anymore.
Yeah, like the planet's done. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's
gonna be
no
drained.
turning back no more.
Yeah, and now it got moved up to like 18 months.
What?
Yeah, now it's saying 18 months. And the thing is, like on Twitter, they're smart about that, man. They put the headline. It says Earth only has 18 months left. You know, and when you
really?
read that shit, like you just read it and you tell people about it. You know, like
Yeah.
people like to know, but they don't actually like to do research. You know, they just like to sound like they know.
Yeah.
They want to be able to tell people information and get a reaction out of people, like, oh really, you know, like shit like that. So it's funny to me because that headline, I clicked on the article and it was completely different from the headline. You know,
Really?
like
Yeah,
they make it seem like, oh, we have 18 months to live and then the world's just gonna like fucking shatter into pieces. You know, it's gonna blow up, it's gonna dry out, it's gonna like catch on fire or some shit like that. You know, like there's some truth to that. Obviously, like there's a lot that we could be doing to, you know, like reduce carbon emissions, which is one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
But the way they, and I mean, I guess it's effective, but the way that they try to make people aware or spark a change, it's like, it's not truthful, you know?
It's through a headline.
Yeah, it's headline.
Yeah,
it's
and
clickbait.
I
It's
know
not
people
truthful.
like that's just share articles day in, day out without actually reading the fucking articles that they're sharing. And sometimes when you look at that article, it doesn't match up with the headline, or there's some kind of
exactly what
information that isn't completely like self-evident. Like they'll tell you, or like, oh, the like for example, let's say the planet is like dying, but they won't give you actual evidence, or they won't cite researchers that are telling you this, or they won't give you a statistic or nothing like that. So that kind of brings into question, like, are we really sure of what we're reading about, or what we think we're reading about through social media, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's some truth to it, you know? I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong. Right. Obviously, you know, like, there is a problem with carbon emission, and, you know, like, obviously the global temperature is rising. Like, the
global warming.
Yeah, Antarctica melting, like, a lot of animals dying out.
Yeah.
But the way they're trying to solve shit, it's, you know, it's effective, but it's not truthful, and
it's not scientific.
And I feel like that's caused a lot of like polarization on the right and the left side, you know. It's either you're with us or against us. It creates a sense of there's a oppressor and there's, you know, like the person being oppressed.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it either or. You're either the hammer or the nail.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I don't think it's ever, like, in my, you know, years being alive and understanding of what's going on, it's never been more divided than now, you know? Like, you read about history and you talk about, and you see the racism. It's nothing compared to that. But you see it, you know? And you're like, damn, like, if it's this bad, you know, and it's just over issues like this, imagine when, like, those issues were greater, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, the Civil War was
that's what I'm saying.
The last time when we got this divided, I think. Like, the Civil War was the last time where...
That's what I'm saying. Like, this seems minuscule compared to that.
Yeah.
But even living through this, you're seeing what's going on. You see how people are treating each other. Like, and you see people's solutions, like, what they think is happening. They're coming up with solutions before even knowing that it's going to work. They like to propose stuff that's, you know, like...
Like, okay, like what do you mean?
Yeah, like, a lot of what Bernie Sanders is doing is, I feel like... I guess also it's kind of the way he's being portrayed. It might be a little fair. But for the most part, I feel like he's just running his campaign based on, like, sound bites, headlines.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah, man, like
when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, I was like, okay, finally, this is the time we get to see Bernie Sanders in full dialogue. We're going to get to see his plans, like, play out in a full 1 hour conversation with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, because regularly in these arguments and political debates, they only have a few minutes or even a few seconds just to get off what they want to say, you know? So it's like now you have an hour, you know, or whatever. And the thing is, he chooses the amount of time he can give Joe Rogan, you know?
Yeah.
And it was one of the shorter podcasts, which surprised me, you know? I'm like, it's only like about an hour.
Right.
And you're talking about how you plan to lead this country, how, you know, like, how you believe you're going to make everything happen. And you're only, like, giving an hour. Like, I understand you probably have a schedule. But if you understand publicity, you understand that podcasts, social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, that's what's going to help you.
Exactly.
You know? Like, now, if you want to go on CNN, they're going to tell you what you can say and what you can't say, you know?
Yeah.
It's biased. Like, they want to make you... They want to present...
They have a filter.
Yeah, exactly. They want to present their truth, not an actual truth or an actual agenda, you know? Like I said, they want something that they can make sound bites out of.
Yeah. And, like, for example, the presidential debates. That's a good example of, like, what you're talking about here. Because they only give them a certain amount of time to speak. Like, each candidate only could speak a certain amount of time. They're like, all right. They ask the orator, the person that's asking the question, he'll ask the question and then be like, all right, you got this much time, go. You know? And then they're like, okay, I need to stop you. Now it's this guy's turn. And it turns into this fight of,
and
like...
they'll keep talking because they still have to say something.
Yeah, it turns into this fight of, like, 30-second commentary between each candidate. And that's really not enough time to explain a full agenda or to explain a full solution to, like, climate change, to fucking income inequality and all that stuff, you know? Definitely. Podcasts are actually, I think, a better form of conversation because you get, like, a full 1, 2, 3 hour conversation with a person in front of you that's more human than a presidential debate.
And it's never been like this available and this easy.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's not that hard. There's actually a congressman. He's ex-military. He just began as a congressman and he's running for forgot what district. But he's from Texas. And anyway, so he's actually a senator now and he has videos on YouTube. You can actually look it up. And he talks about bills that are being proposed, bills that are passed. And he speaks on why he's for the bill, why he's against the bill, and the reason, like basically just all the reasoning behind the bill. Like he'll literally explain it, in videos.
Yeah.
Separately. Like it's not just one whole video where you're bored. It's like a podcast. Like it's literally episodes of him explaining bills and why he's against or why he's for, and how it's ultimately gonna benefit or be against.
Yeah, that's why.
Population.
And a lot of people like that have taken up podcasts, like Peter Schiff, an economist that was a speaker for Fox News and stuff. Like he eventually, like he had enough of Fox and said, you know what, this isn't a good way to get out my ideas. As an economist, as someone that studied this for a very long time at the university, has become basically a professor of what he speaks. He was like, I don't like Fox because they only give me a limited amount of time, and then they trash me, or someone will trash me because I'm always talking about a recession. So he started his own podcast too. So it's like, yeah, podcasts are, in my opinion, more important than like these CNN debates or like these CNN shows where they'll bring in a candidate and then ask them questions, or even the presidential debate, in my opinion.
Scripted, yeah.
Yeah, because those things are so filtered, they're scripted, and then like you said, there's a limited amount of time that you can get out of that person. Like, but in a podcast, like this is why I was so eager to see Bernie Sanders like on the podcast, because I was like, okay, finally I get to hear his plans.
But I I wasn't skeptical about Bernie until just recently, Honestly, it was because I didn't really pay attention like the last elections. I was just kind of like whatever, like I was barely able to vote, so it's like. Yeah, and that's when we're barely learning about like the economy and stuff like that. Like
I wasn't even a political science major at the time. Yeah. I was a business major.
Weren't we still in high school?
I was my first year of college when the first presidential debates between like Trump and Bernie Sanders came around. I was in high school no more. I was already in my first year. I remember when Trump got elected. I was my first year. Yeah,
you're right.
So I wasn't even
like, it's like before I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I'm just like, oh, I just know Trump's bad, Bernie's good, and Hillary's a liar,
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so I'm like, naturally, who am I gonna go with? Like,
yeah.
But now that I've studied, like it's not my profession, it's not my field of expertise, but just from what I've read, from what I understand, like
as a student.
Yeah, as a student, like I've come to see that a lot of what he's doing is proposing solutions without knowing they're gonna work, without a lot of the research for them.
Yeah.
And I saw that a lot in the podcast, because before that I was still kind of like, oh well, okay, let's see what he's talking about. Because same thing with Andrew Yang. At first, when I heard the UBI, I'm like, oh well, $1,000, like, yeah, shit, I'll take it. I'll take $1,000. Like, who's gonna say no? But when you break it down and you think about it, it's just assuming that only works assuming everyone is on board. But you're not always going to have everyone on board.
Yeah, because his idea is that if you give people $1,000, they're going to have enough money to spend it and then return it back to the economy.
Yeah, or even they're going to have that extra money, so that means they can invest their time into other things, that are more important to society. So he says, like the extra $1,000 is going to free up some of your time because you're not going to be working. You're going to be able to, like start studying, start reading, whatever it is you want to do. And it's going to create more success in America, I guess.
Yeah,
he's going after.
He said like, oh, people will take that additional stress out of not having those $1,000. Like, from like, let's say if you have a car that you need to fix, like you'll have $1,000 to fix that. Like stuff like that just deters people from moving on with their lives. That's one example that he gave.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's crazy. Like, where does he come up with it? Like, randomly, he just said, oh, one day, like, I'm gonna run for president and I'm gonna give everyone $1,000. Like, obviously, he's an economist. He was an economist, right, at a point, and then he was also a CEO of a company.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but maybe it's the data and the statistics that he gives are truthful, but that's only assuming everyone is on board. But right now it's difficult to like lean towards that because of how polarized the left and the right are.
What do you mean?
Like I said, I don't think it's ever been more divided, like, yeah, people are soft now, like
okay, you said that the last time we had this kind of division between this country, people in this country, is like the Civil War, right? And now what you're getting at is that Andrew Yang is proposing this idea of UBI, and it's not gonna work in your opinion because we're so divided, and the way we might use this money is different?
No, okay, so what I'm getting at is people are not all going to be on board. Think about it. As it is right now, there's people who don't even want Mexicans or anyone that's not American in the U.S., you know? They're literally chanting, like, to build walls. They're supporting Trump blindly. Like,
Yeah.
imagine when Andrew Yang, people are going to be mad that Trump didn't win again.
Okay.
People are still going to be mad about that. And imagine Andrew Yang giving $1,000 to everybody.
So people on the right would be like,
they're gonna be like, oh well,
yeah,
they're gonna be like, well, not completely, but they're gonna be like, oh well, what determines if they get it or not? You know, like they're not even from this country.
Yeah,
like, they're not contributing, and they're getting $1,000.
So this is gonna contribute to more polarization, is what you're saying?
Exactly. Like it's just gonna. I feel like it's gonna divide people more because they're gonna be like, oh well, why do they get 1,000? And you know, like, what makes it okay? They're like they weren't born here. You know, like it's just gonna. They're going to try to use that more. That's
definitely the question, though. Like, if you're really going to use those $1,000 effectively, you know? Because I know some people that, like, who gets the $1,000? Like, do you have to be a property owner to get $1,000? Or, like, can even a homeless man that's a U.S. citizen get $1,000? Because there's some people that really just use that money to buy more alcohol, buy more drugs, buy all that kind of stuff. Is there going to be some kind of filter where, like, you can only use this money through, like, a kind of, like, debit exchange? Or, like, you know, somewhere where they could track where those $1,000 are going? Or is it going to come to you in cash? You know, all these questions, like, it's raising all these questions that we're not really sure of at this point, right?
Yeah. And, like, going back to Bernie, why I brought up Andrew Yang, it's because Bernie is suggesting or proposing, I'd say, a lot of stuff that, sounds good on paper, but it's not attainable. Or it's things that he's giving solutions without actual, you know, like proof that it's going to work or data that it's going to work.
Here's the problem I have with Bernie. Well, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, he loves to blame capitalism, corporations. He loves to say people are greedy. Mm-hmm. And there's some truth to that, you know? Like capitalism has as many cons and pros as socialism, you know?
Yeah.
Not to bash anything, because a little bit of everything is what works, you know?
Yeah.
You can't just be on one side and not think that a little influence from the other, you know, is not going to work.
Yeah, because full-fledged capitalism eventually produces this vast inequality between the 1% and then the vast majority of the people that are living in poverty.
Yeah, and pretty much for the most part, it's like that now, you know? Like, a little more socialism would help, but I'd feel like the way he's interpreting it is extreme, you know?
Yeah.
It's extreme.
Like getting rid of, completely getting rid of student debt. Like that's a big one.
That's a big one. And then also, is he also trying to get rid of the Electoral College?
Is he?
Or who is that?
I'll look that up right now if you want.
Yeah, look it up, because I don't want to say anything that's not true, but I know someone was trying to get rid of the Electoral College, right? There has to be someone.
Damn, I don't know.
It might have been Bernie. Let's make sure. I mean, regardless what I'm going to say, you know, like, it still applies and it's truthful, but I just don't want to say it's Bernie and not be him.
Oh, shit. I'm with caps.
Man, you need a chicken sandwich. You can't spell.
It's hard with this mic. Sanders says he's back abolishing. Oh shit, you're right. He's trying to abolish the Electoral College.
Yeah, and
what? Just check if the camera's still on.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, so the thing is, he's not. Let me see. Okay, Democratic person.
We're good. He's not what?
Okay, so he's for it, right? I'm not saying it's only him. You know, it's not only him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pinning this completely on Bernie. But see, this is like one of the things that I actually do understand the process of. So I can say, you know, I'm not an expert, but I understand what's happening with this. So by getting rid of the Electoral College, it leaves us in the 51-49% problem. It's 51% of America is gonna in essence, dictate what happens to the other 49, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's either or. It's either or. And the thing with that is it would literally, in Los Angeles, United States, it would ultimately lead to New York and Los Angeles when it comes to voting.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Because if it's one vote per person, think about that. Those are the most populated cities.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles is like, what, 20-something million?
Yeah.
And New York is like about 9 million people.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So the fate of the country
would depend on those two major cities.
Those two major cities. Yeah. Because a state like Idaho, how much representation are they going to have? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And the only reason like these candidates even go to these small states is because they understand that just because it's a small state doesn't mean that they don't have a say, you know?
Right.
They understand that if you're going to a small state, you need to win it because every state counts, you know?
Yeah.
The representation is there. And without the Electoral College, we're in that 51% 49 problem.
That's actually called populism. It's an actual political term where like the it's pretty much to just sum it up in like one sentence, like the most popular vote or the most popular candidate is the one that gets elected. It's like super simple. Like if you're playing tag with friends or something, or like you're in a group with friends and you're like, oh, okay, let's decide what movie we're gonna watch, and then like, oh, who votes for this movie or who votes for this movie, and the one that with the most hands gets the vote. So that's pretty much what he's trying to like water this down to, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like it comes down to this 51%, 49% thing, like, you know, 51% of the country.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
That's what I'm saying, like.
But it sounds good because it's like people are like thinking, oh, well, now
like
we get
now my vote really counts.
Yeah.
Right now they think their vote doesn't count. Like he's saying, it is hard to defeat a system in which we have a president who lost a popular vote by 3 million votes. But then again, popular vote does not mean an informed vote. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
It's people that are voting based on headlines, sound bites. You know? Yeah. Honestly, obviously, I don't agree with Trump being president. You know, like I wouldn't have wanted him. Honestly, I mean, I guess I would have rather had Bernie just because, you know, like he's not an extremist the way Trump is. He's not.
And you assume that whatever kind of extreme idea Bernie has, there's somebody that's going to check him on that, you know, in Congress.
Regardless, like, like that's what I'm saying. It's going to divide it. Now it's going to be like even more difficult to get something done because there's someone who's going to have that, you know, like that need for not really a vengeance, but for lack of a better word right now, I'm going to go with that, you know, like for a need for like, oh yeah, like you might have won, but we're going to make it impossible for you to do anything. You know, kind of the way it's for Trump right now. Like, but I mean, he's getting away with a lot, so it's pretty questionable, especially because right now the majority is Republican, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine with the House being more Republican with Bernie there.
I don't know. I don't know how that whole situation works because I don't see the Electoral College ever leaving. It's something that has been there since the foundation of this country. So I don't think that he'd have to go through a lot of roadblocks to try to actually get rid of the Electoral College.
But what I'm saying is, like, is that really going to be effective?
Well, getting rid of it in the first place?
Like, it's not. Of course not. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the stuff that I feel like he's saying, it's just like
to get people to
get sound bites. To get people riled. He's doing what Trump did, but on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's what
these
candidates do.
I've told you before. I feel like Bernie is the Trump, you know, of the Democrats or socialists, I guess.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But it's not to say anything bad about him, you know. Like, obviously, there's a different approach when you talk about Bernie versus when you talk about Trump. With Bernie, you know, I respect him. Like, yeah, he has his ideology. I just don't feel like it's for the U.S. I don't feel like it's gonna be too effective.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like Trump, like. Because I know there's people going to be like, oh, well, you know, if you don't vote for Bernie, if you don't vote for Bernie or you don't, you know, like support him, then you support Trump. Like, that's not true, you know, like.
Well, yeah, because when it gets down to that the last two candidates, it's like you're either or.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, obviously, if it comes down to that, you know, I'm going to go with Bernie.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather have someone who's proposing stuff that's crazy, but at least if it works, like, hey man, like it worked, you know, and like we won. Like,
yeah, he's looking out for like the vast majority that are like in the low income brackets, that are people that are like struggling to come up, whereas like Trump is trying to protect like the 1%, trying to protect corporate interests and so forth, you know.
Yeah.
So My problem with Bernie is that, like you said, he says things that gets people riled up, that gets people emotional to want to go out there and vote, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what he's supposed to do. But when it comes down to explaining his full agenda or his full plan to all these problems that we have in our society in this day, he doesn't really go into details about those things.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you heard about him in the Joe Rogan podcast, when I was like,
it doesn't sound sincere.
When I was gonna watch that podcast, like, all right, finally I'm gonna figure out what he's gonna say, how he's gonna do the things that he's fucking proposing, all his solutions and so forth. But when he got on the Joe Rogan podcast, he only had an hour, and then he was just going through all the stuff he already said he was gonna do in all his campaign speeches and so forth.
The thing is that it's not that he only had an hour. It's that he only wanted to talk for that hour.
I felt
because
that too.
Joe Rogan, he's had podcasts that have been over 3 hours with people who are fucking comedians, who have nothing to lose.
Or like Elon Musk.
Yeah,
Elon Musk was like a 2-3 hour podcast. Like he had him on for a good while, and you'd assume that Elon Musk is just as busy, if not even more, than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So I think that, like you said, Bernie Sanders just didn't want to go the full 3 hours to explain how he was going to do all these radical things that
because I don't think he has all the solutions. Like
to the solutions. He doesn't have the solutions
to the solution to his agenda. He don't have the solutions. It's like he's proposing ideas that could solve stuff.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have the data. He doesn't actually have a way of making it happening. Yeah. Like when he talked about gun control, he was like, "Oh well, we got to do the best that we can."
Oh yeah.
He kept saying that, and like Joe Rogan was asking him, he was like, "Yeah, I understand that we might not be able to ever completely abolish that."
Yeah. Here's a better one. When Joe Rogan asked him, "Okay, let's say all best case scenarios play out the way that you wanted to, and you get elected as president of the United States in 2020. What's the first thing you do when you get into office?" He asked him that very question.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then Bernie just avoided that question and said, "Well, I'm gonna do all the things I said I was gonna do." It was like, all right, but like, what are you really gonna do? Like, what are you gonna start on first? What are you gonna,
What are you gonna tackle first?
Yeah, but he had no response to that question, so that's what gets me kind of confused. Like, you're supposed to be the guy that like is supposed to know all this stuff because you're the one proposing it. You're gonna be the president, so you're the one that's supposed to know all the things that you're gonna do once you get into office.
Yeah, like I'm no expert in policy or anything. Yeah. But I'm here and I'm saying what I believe, because I've put thought into it, so I know what I want to say about the subject. I feel like he hasn't been doing the same on all topics. Maybe some of the topics he has solutions to. Yeah. You can also say that he can't give up too much information, because obviously he's still in run. So
I don't know if he can't give up enough information because he's going to be the president.
That's the point,
I want to know. I want to know in numbers. I want to know in data what he's really going to do.
That's what I'm saying. But since it's not, I guess, the most, official way of getting your ideas out, although it's probably the most effective, he feels like, okay, I can't say everything here, like it's not, because then if he tries to go into another debate, like they're already gonna know what he plans to do, and it gives the other people a chance to break down why what he wants to do won't work. Right. But at the same time, couldn't that be a good thing?
Yeah, exactly.
You expose the truth, like whether you like it or not, like it's the truth. Like whether you love Bernie, like you die for him, whatever, like you think everything he says is right. If someone were to expose a lie in one of like his solutions
or a flaw in one of his propositions,
like what can you do? It's the truth. Like you can be mad, you can say what you want, like you can be like, you're an extremist, you're on the right, like,
but at least you get that fucking information out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like if someone can show why it doesn't work or why they don't think it's gonna work, and it seems better than why he thinks it is, like what am I gonna do? Like I'm not gonna still blindly follow him just because.
Yeah. Right now we're talking in hypothetical terms, but like let's be specific here. Like we're talking. Let's talk about one of Bernie Sanders' propositions, and one of those is to get rid of student debt, and that's a very popular one among students, among people that are our age, because who wants to face debt when they get out of college? That's a lot of money you got to pay back the government. Okay, so Bernie Sanders goes out and in one of his presidential campaigns, he says, okay, I'm gonna get rid of student debt. This gets everyone on his side, right? Because who wants that? And
who's gonna be? Oh,
hold
sorry.
on. People assume that this man knows how he's gonna fix that because he's the president. He's the one that's proposing it. If that guy's the one that's proposing it, if he's the one that's sitting at that podium or standing at that podium, and he's the one that's gonna be president, well, he should know how to do this. But the truth in this case is that he doesn't. He hasn't come out specifically with a strategy of how he's gonna get all the people's debt cleared. It's just, okay, we're gonna increment taxes in the 1%.
It's like the same thing as Andrew Yang. That's what he's saying. He's like, oh, we're gonna increase this. We're gonna do this. Like, yeah, that could work on paper, statistically, but you forget people have emotion. People have opinion. People aren't computers.
Yeah.
You can show someone why they're wrong. Like, you can have the proof right there, and they'll still try to tell you like they're right.
Right.
So, it's not always super effective. Like,
Andrew Yang, the difference between Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders is that Andrew Yang is just a little bit more careful with the data he puts out, because Bernie Sanders
he's more analytical.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders is more hypothetical. Like, all right, I'm gonna clear student debt, and people get behind him, and then he doesn't explain how exactly he's gonna do that without just saying, because all he really says is just, oh, we're gonna increase the tax on the 1%. But like, if you look at people in the 1%, it's more than just big companies. The 1% entails people that make above that marginal tax rate that puts them in the high income bracket, which is, I think, somewhere like around $100,000. So if you make, like, I'm not sure if it's $100,000 or $300,000, but it's less than $1 million. If you make above that total income a year, then you're automatically included in this high income bracket. He's trying to tax them at a rate of above 90% or something crazy like that to make this thing work. You can't do that to people in the high income brackets, because they're not going to want to get taxed that heavily. I mean, of course, this is a marginal tax rate, so that means that every dollar that they make after that like $300,000 or I think $100,000, then they get taxed 90% of that other dollar. So like, let's say, for example, they make $1 million after that marginal rate, then they'll get taxed over 90% of those $1 million. So it'd be like they'd get back something like $10,000 from $1 million, which is just fucking crazy. Like, it doesn't work on paper. So like, but he's proposing it, and people that hear him think that, oh, well, this guy knows because he's gonna be the president, but he really doesn't. And that's what gets me fucked up about this whole thing. This whole argument of the getting rid of the student debt.
Another thing. Oh, sorry. Let me see. Another thing that I wanted to kind of bring up, and it still might be a little sensitive.
Bring it up, man.
It's the whole banning AR thing.
Oh, okay. This is a big one, gun control.
Yeah, exactly. And Bernie, he's for banning, assault rifles.
Right.
But statistically, and you can look this up, deaths by assault rifles are only 2.66%
of
when you account deaths in the United States.
Oh, okay, total deaths?
Yeah, assault rifles, right. Fully automatic.
I'd assume that the
fully automatic, it's only 2.66%.
Right.
It's not even 3%.
Yeah.
More people have been killed in the United States by a hammer or a knife or something like that.
Are you serious?
That's a fact. You can look it up. You can look it up. Death rate by AR in the United States.
Death. All right, America's gun culture in charts by BBC News. That's pretty reputable.
Yeah, it doesn't account for pistols or smaller guns like that. It's just for.
All right, dude.
That's just gun related.
All right, 73% gun related.
It's not AR.
AR.
Yeah, assault rifles.
Let's look up. I typed in death rate by assault rifle. Data confirms semi-automatic rifles linked to more deaths. Of course, some of these websites are left-leaning, so they'll, I don't know. Where did you look this up, though? Do you remember where you got that number? So I could get that article.
It's who talked about it? I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. I just had it. Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw. Oh, that you saw that podcast? That was a really good one, by the way.
It was.
Thousands of Americans are gunned down each year. Gun deaths in the U.S. 10 key questions answered. Pew Research.
And the thing is
pretty good. I always use Pew Research.
Literally.
All right. Suicide. Oh, this is suicides, though.
Guns.
3/4 of all U.S. murders in 2017 involved a firearm.
That's just a firearm, though, but we're talking about AR.
AR in specific?
Yeah.
Let me see. Do they have anything on? All right. Rifles, the category that includes many guns that are sometimes referred to as assault weapons, were involved in 4%. So,
4%, see?
Okay, so but like it's a low...
But still, 4%. Look, most of it's pistols.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's...
Yeah, okay, like I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's made more available.
Because the gun control thing is like... They're pushing to get rid of these fast guns, like the automatic weapons, the AR-15s and all that stuff. They're trying to get rid of like the fast shooting guns that go, you know? But they're not talking about the real killers in this country, which is the smaller guns, which are semi-automatic, like pistols.
Not even just that. It's not the guns. It's these people.
Right. Because like if people,
because think about it, if you were to ban, ideally say, okay, you get rid of all assault rifles, people only have handguns and stuff like that. That's what they're gonna use. You get rid of all pistols. What are they gonna use?
All right, look,
hammers, knives.
Yeah.
Like if people are gonna kill, they're gonna kill regardless. You know.
Yeah, you're talking in hypothetical terms, but let me talk. Let me talk to you in specific terms now. In the UK, they did get rid of all the guns. They got rid of a lot of guns, and then guess what happened? The fucking number of people that get stabbed each year increased.
Exactly.
Deaths by stabbing increased a lot once they got rid of all these firearms in the UK.
Exactly, because if people are gonna kill, they're gonna kill. They're gonna find something to kill you with. They're gonna hit you with the car, you know, whatever it is. They're gonna stab you. They're gonna burn you. Whatever it is. If people's intentions are to kill, they're gonna do that. They're gonna kill.
I think like what gets people fucked up is that when they see people get killed, like all in one, like in the span of like 1 hour, people like 30 people die because of
it's fucking tragic, you know, and it's like the worst shit ever. Like it's a fear, you know, like I'm not gonna lie and say, you know, like I don't be thinking about like sometimes I'll go into rooms where I'm not really
we've talked about this
where
before.
I'm not in, and I'll be like looking around or thinking like, oh, you know, like where would I go if, you know, like someone starts shooting? What would I do, you know? Sometimes I'm even like, oh, you know, like what if it's the person next to me, like like am I taking the risk of trying to stop him,
right?
You know?
Yeah, it's this fear like we've all internalized without.
And it's recent. It's recent because before I never thought about this.
Yeah.
Like I've heard the Columbine, but I never thought it was like real. You know, like you see it happen, but you
thought it was just like a freak accident that happened once.
Yeah, but there's like a whole bunch of copycats now.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you can take away the ARs, and it'll do something. You know, there's a correlation between obviously assault rifles and, you know, like major deaths or even just death in general.
Mass shootings, you mean?
Yeah. But
events of mass shootings.
Regardless, people are going to kill if they're going to kill.
Yeah.
But I mean, AR would, you know, obviously it would decrease the amount of death, I feel.
Pistols, I think, like, okay,
you can conceal
you're not going to get rid of deaths. Mm-mm. People are going to kill each other, like, regardless. But like the thing is, the question at hand is like, if we get rid of assault rifles,
make it more difficult.
Will these mass shootings still occur as much? Well, like the same weekend that the El Paso shooting happened, like 60 people died, like in Chicago or something, because of like
more.
Yeah, because and they weren't just people, because it was like a gang related kind of activity, but even civilians got shot and they were caught in the fire of this whole thing.
Innocent,
So if people are really for gun control, then they should be for getting rid of guns completely, because assault rifles are not the killers here, and so aren't shotguns. It's the handguns that do most of the killings, you know. They're the ones that are involved in like all these mass shootings in Chicago and all these other like low income areas, you know. So that's really the killer, the handgun. And that's why you have to wait till you're 21 to get the handgun, whereas you can get like a a rifle at 18. Yeah, because it's easier to hide a handgun, put it in your pocket, and just start shooting people. You know, if you really wanted to take out a lot of people with just a handgun, you could do that. But I think it's more dramatic when you do it with a faster gun. Because how many rounds are like in a handgun? Like, let's say 8.
Yeah.
8 to 12 or something, right? You could literally kill 8 people with that one clip.
Yeah.
And you could keep like 10 clips in your pocket and just get rid of people if you really wanted to.
Exactly.
But it's not as dramatic. It doesn't give you that same shock factor as when you see in the news that someone walked in with an AK-47. That's what gets people like really emotional and riled up. Like, oh shit!
They started spraying. You know, like because it's inhumane.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely is.
For someone to be able to just go off and you not care, you know, and kill all those people in that many, you know, well, in that just that short amount of time. Like, it's just crazy to think about. You're like, damn, like.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad that they use this as a political weapon, because a lot of people that are in politics, that are like candidates, that are politicians, people that are in positions of power, they don't give a fuck about the actual deaths. A lot of these people just want to get reelected or are looking to get some kind of leeway, to get some kind of benefit out of this, to get people on their side. Like, all right, let's go for gun control. Like, let's say a candidate is trying to push that bill to pass. They're going to use this as another way of getting people on their side to pass that bill. That's how these politicians work. They work in passing policy and nothing more, in re-elections and passing policy. It's like, all right, like, if you really wanted to get rid of guns, the best way would be to show like the number of people that die by guns in like I said, Chicago and stuff, like all these places where they have problems with gun violence, you know. Mm-hmm. And but the thing is that it's more dramatic when you start sharing all these like posts about like the El Paso shooter, you know, like people in CNN were doing that, people that were on the left-leaning media, ABC, people in all those left-leaning media like outlets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so like bringing this up, I feel like it's a good transition into like something else that I kind of wanted to talk about, which is, I guess, in a sense, like this whole prevention thing, you know, like how do you prevent this? How do you prevent that?
That's
you know,
the real question.
Like the AR stuff.
Yeah, that's the real question.
Yeah, so, you know, like kind of transitioning away from that, you know, I feel like it's the same thing. Like, okay, well, let's go back to that a little bit. The fact that these people aren't being classified as terrorists, it's pretty crazy to me, man, because that's exactly what the fuck they are, you know?
Yeah.
These people are terrorists. Like, whether you want to say it or not, you'll say, oh, you know, like they had mental problems or they needed help, or, you know, people tried to warn them.
Well, let me tell you something.
But they're, at the end of the day, it's an act of terrorism against the country. Like,
yeah, I think, though, if you, let's say, for example, the New Zealand shooter, he actually live streamed his fucking massacre. And if you watch that video,
there's intention, man.
When you watch that video, you can't imagine a regular sane person like yourself doing these things to other people. So it does bring into question their mental health, because in my thought, you have to be fucking crazy to go out and do that to people, like regular people. When you watch him showing you how he's doing this, like, you can't imagine how a regular person could bring themselves to do something like that. So yes, I think that everybody that goes out there and causes a mass shooting is mentally unstable, or there's at least something wrong with their mental health.
No, definitely.
It's not. They're all terrorists, but they also all have mental issues.
But that doesn't excuse it. That doesn't mean like, okay, like I'm not gonna consider you what you are because you happen, you know, like to have not come up. You have happened to not come up in, you know, the ideal settings, or you never got the help or treatment you needed. You were mistreated.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like it's not an excuse for it. No, I know what you mean, but.
Because I want to make that clear right now, because there's going to be fucking people that are going to bash me on this. Believe me, I have to make this clear right now. I don't believe that this excuses them by no means. Yes, they should go to fucking jail. They should get the death penalty. They should have life in jail. They should rot forever after doing something so stupid like that. But yes, it does bring into question their mental health. They are fucked up in the head for doing something that stupid.
They are.
All of them.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the same way they're trying to ban ARs, thinking it's gonna do anything, or gonna do or solve everything, I should say, because I mean, obviously, you know, it'll be somehow to get guns like that out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. But what I want to transition into is the whole like argument versus why do we have troops in foreign countries? Why do we have so many bases like in over 100 countries?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Like I've been reading about it. I've been like watching videos, both sides of the argument, and it makes sense to me. Because if you go back and you think about why countries hate us, you can say, oh, it's because we're nosy, because we meddle, we go uninvited. But a lot of the times that's just headlines. It's just headlines, like at the end of the day.
All sovereign nations do that though.
Yeah, because
Russia, China, they have troops in places where they shouldn't have troops also. And that's because they're protecting their foreign interests.
For the example of 9/11, I'm not sure if you've ever like really looked into what happened or what began that kind of like terrorist attack.
No, I really don't know. I know that the headline said something about oil.
Yeah. Okay, so before that, the United States helped Osama bin Laden's, their army. What were they? Something with the M.
I don't know, man.
Like what is it?
It's not Al-Qaeda.
No, it was like the Mahujabi or something like that. But anyway, we helped them. We aided them in the war they had with the Soviet Union.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
With the Soviet Union.
Yeah, we gave them firearms and the equipment to take down their Huey helicopters.
Exactly.
I know all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we helped them in that war.
Yeah.
Against
and that's because of the help of
against Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
So we helped Osama bin Laden protect the land, whatever.
Yeah.
Beat the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And they still turned around and they did that.
Yeah.
More than anything, it's that they're against Western ideologies. It's not. There's emotion behind the attack. It wasn't political. Well, I mean, to an extent it was, but it wasn't fully political. There was emotion behind that.
Mm-hmm.
There was intent.
Like they gave us firearms
to it was to cause harm.
Okay.
It wasn't just a political move because that essentially started a war.
Yeah.
It's not like your conventional war.
Mm-hmm.
It's these times of, I guess,
proxy wars.
Yeah.
Wars between smaller states, or
just that, and something similar to what you see in the Cold War. It wasn't fought directly.
Okay. Yeah, like proxy wars.
Yeah, it wasn't fought directly through the two countries.
No, yeah, they had smaller countries, smaller nations that were trying to find an ideology to subscribe to, either communism or capitalism, and that's why we started the Vietnam War. It was because we wanted South Korea to not unify with North Korea, which was a communist country. And we tried aiding them to a certain extent, but then we actually started sending troops in Vietnam, and then we went to a full-fledged war between the U.S. and the North Viet Cong.
Yeah.
So it's these wars of ideologies and stuff, but.
So yeah, I just felt like I wanted to kind of like talk about that, like about people's argument versus in having like people overseas and other countries, like people seem to really be against it. They're like, oh, bring our troops home.
Mm.
But it's the same thing as completely abolishing assault rifles. Like, yeah, say if you bring everybody back, then how do we preemptively like stop these attacks?
Mm.
Because they're always plotting, man. Like,
yeah, we have
because look what happened with the elections. It might not be something that might have killed people, but it would have definitely been like a turning point in our history. The fact that they were able to control our elections and manipulate the results for their favor,
Yeah.
Because with the shit you see Trump doing, like, it's not crazy to think that he might have been trying to start like his own, like a rule almost. Like that's a little more hypothetical and more like into like the side of conspiracies, but just it's just a thought, like like to think about how easy it would have been, Yeah. And he almost got away. Like, he almost didn't get caught.
With what?
With like the whole issue with Russia meddling in the election.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, they had that whole problem with Russia for a good minute.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. Like, yeah, you can take the troops out, but how are you ever going to be prepared, How do you know, like, I don't think people understand what the U.S. does. For the most part, the U.S. is not in other countries just like dropping random bombs, just killing random people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's casualties, and it sucks, you know, and like, I'm not saying I completely agree with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we do is we aid countries,
Yeah.
you know, that we can use as, I mean, or that would be beneficial in our aid, you know.
Yeah. In our interests.
I guess, yeah, like if we ever needed it.
Yeah. I guess the reason why we have troops overseas is to protect our foreign interests in terms of like protecting trade routes and also protecting like these smaller states that you said subscribe to our ideologies and stuff. And it's just that having allies that have our back and then we have theirs as well. Yeah. But like sometimes people get caught in the crosshairs, and I understand that people get mad because of that too. You know, like when we had these drones killing people in, I forgot what Middle Eastern country, and people that were civilians.
Iran, no?
Huh?
Was it in Iran?
Oh, I think it was Iran. So we had like drones killing random civilians and stuff. It was like a large number of like innocent people. And I get that. Like there's fucking confusion and stuff, and then innocent people get killed. But at the same time, it's like it's also necessary for sovereign nations to have some kind of foreign interests in these smaller states to protect the sovereign nation's economy and stuff like that. Like Russia and China also have their own troops in these smaller states protecting their interests as well. And it's like we can't just get rid of all of our troops because then they'll have the upper hand.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you know, there's not much more to say about this, but one thing that I believe that's, you know, like, it relates to the same subject in terms of how you said we're looking out for our own benefit or interest. This is less about war and more of about economy.
Right.
But a lot of people don't understand the reason that medicine and stuff like that is sometimes more expensive here is because we're able to patent medications and stuff like that. And Canada and other places, they don't do that. They don't have a law on patents. So anybody could just make replicas of the same medicine, you know? Someone can buy it, take it to a lab, they tell you what's in it, they make it again. And it's not always a purest form because they don't have the original, right? They don't have the original tools. But a lot of what's happening is that America is paying more because we have to make up for what Canada and other like nations that have cheaper healthcare are not paying, you know, because they're not paying for the original.
Yeah.
They're just paying for their own copies.
Right.
So they don't have like the best medicine. That's why it's more expensive here. I don't agree with it being so expensive, but that's kind of a reason why it is the way it is.
Right.
And a lot of people don't notice, but it's insurance companies versus these pharmacies, because the insurance companies gain more the cheaper that the treatments are and the medicine.
Because they have to spend less.
Yeah. But then think about it. Say the insurance wins, medicine drops, then people are going to be mad at their insurance because they're going to be like, oh, well, why is it so high, you know? And then their insurance is going to say, oh, it's because we have the best medicine at the best prices. So you can go and you can pay on your own, or you can use our expensive insurance.
Right.
And we've talked about this on an episode before. The one we were talking about, like abortion and stuff. Remember how, I don't know if you remember, but I was talking about the way healthcare is increasing.
Yeah.
Like the percentage that it's going to cost, like within the year, it's going to like more than double.
Yeah, and that's because we have patents?
Yeah, well, essentially there's a patent. So saying in the United States, you can't legally duplicate a medication without the approval of the original creator of or company that manufactures the medicine, you know? Yeah. So like insulin, the companies that make it, there's I mean, a few companies obviously that make it. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but I know there's more than one company that makes and produces insulin.
Yeah. Well, what does this have to do with foreign troops though?
That it's like I said, it's less about war, and this is more about our looking out for ourselves. Like we have to come up with like some kind of like treaty or agreement with these countries so that they also abide to our patent laws.
Okay. So like, do they get our medicine or like?
Essentially, that's what happens. Like, okay, so say for example, the U.S. comes up with the cure for something.
Okay.
Or example, diabetes is new.
Okay. Let's say cancer. Let's just be cancer. Let's say cancer. Let's say we come up with a new solution to cancer.
Okay, say it's a shot. You know, say
yeah.
say it's a shot like insulin.
Okay.
The U.S. comes up with it. Sorry.
Or like a shot that cures cancer, or a shot that cures diabetes.
A treatment, you know, like the way insulin works for people with diabetes.
Okay.
Like say that's the same thing that it works with
let's
cancer,
go with
right?
That. All right, let's go with that.
So, okay, so say these people are going to be cured by cancer if they take a certain amount of injections over like a time span.
Yeah.
The U.S., the creator of it, within the U.S., can regulate and tell companies, oh, you can't produce this unless you're paying us because we're the ones that found this out.
Yeah.
In Canada, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
There's no law against it. So you can go and, like I said, you can buy it. Say you buy it, I take it to you, I tell you, hey, what's in this? Can you make this again? You say yes, I can. But it's not the original, you know.
Okay.
It's a copy. It's not always gonna be the same exact because
so
they
it's
don't
like a
have
bootleg of insulin.
Exactly. So what's happening is that they have bootleg medications.
Okay. In these foreign countries.
Yeah. So it's why it's so cheap, because it might have the brand, it might be the name, but it's not the original because it's different people creating this. And they have and it's cheap because they're making profit because they know that if they sell it cheaper, more people are going to want to buy it versus if they raise a price on it and make the quality better.
And so why do we have the troops over there? Do they protect against this or like?
No, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying we should be acting like, I guess, to prevent this. Well, it's because, like I said, this is moving away a little bit more from what we're talking about being about troops. This is more about like foreign affairs and protecting our economy.
Forget the troops. We're talking about foreign economy now.
Yeah.
Foreign trade and stuff.
Foreign economy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like a transition, you know, like like talking about why we have troops there. You know, same thing with how we should have like some kind of treaty that allows, you know, like, or kind of forces them to implement like patent laws also. Because the U.S. loses a lot of money like that, and that's why they have to make the medicine so expensive. Yeah. Because now they have a competition. But say we both drop prices, they're both cheap, no one really makes money. Because it's a safe price. There's no competition, you know.
Right.
Everyone's just selling it for cheap. It's gonna be like dirt. You can just get it anywhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's good for economy to
like having these patents and regulations that end up costing more money, because that makes the product actually be
better. Now you need to make top quality shit. In order for it to be sold, it's like weed. Like,
but if your competitor,
you can buy cheap weed.
Yeah, but if your
competitor, you can buy good weed.
If your competitor is selling you something that they're marketing as equal to or even better than the original, then and at a cheaper price, then how is that not competition?
The thing is, like I said, if they get the cure or whatever it is that they're selling, the medicine from another country, they have no regulations. They can sell it at whatever they want. They can produce it in the amount they want. Yeah. And in the U.S., there's certain laws and regulations that prohibit everybody from just making it.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it sucks, you know, and that's part of like where the capitalism like plays a role. Yeah, because like you can make it dirt cheap for everybody and available, but you're not gonna get that top quality. You're not gonna get that same. There's gonna be no motivation for the scientists to be making it, to produce it, because they're like, okay, well, we're not getting paid anything because it's just being handed out so cheap. Yeah.
So if we implement regulations abroad with like these pharmaceutical products, then there's gonna be some kind of better outcome with like our economy.
Yeah, definitely. Not just the outcome in the economy, but we're gonna be able to sell that stuff for cheaper.
But isn't it already being sold cheaper, like in the bootleg version that you were talking about?
Yeah, but that's not contributing to our economy. We're not making money off that, and that's why it's hurting us more, because we have to pay more because not everyone can afford to go to Canada either.
Yeah.
You got to remember, not everyone can get to Canada because people are. If someone's poor and they can't even afford the medicine, what makes you think they're gonna be able to get to Canada and get the medicine? You know.
Right.
Like there's some people who can't even do that. There's some people who have like, okay, yeah, we can make it to Canada because we're close by. But think about people in Texas.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get to Canada.
Yeah, that's a long trip.
You're already poor.
Yeah.
How are you gonna get there?
Yeah.
With that money you spent, you could have bought it here. You know what I mean? So.
But then there's the other argument, because that argument that thing puts in question like the actual free market economy idea. That's like the John Locke version of freedom and liberty, which pretty much says that you are you're the owner of your own product or your own like entrepreneurial like production. So you can also say the same thing though. Like you could say that the prices would be equally cheap and better if there was no regulations at all, because then people would have to compete with one another to make a better product at a cheaper price. So then a person would compete with, let's say for example, you're selling Coke and RC Cola and there's no regulations. So like eventually the better product would win, and this would be in this case Coca-Cola.
No, but that's what happened. Look, so that's what I'm trying to explain to you. It's like if RC took the recipe for Coke and started selling it as RC, but it's still Coke, you know?
Yeah.
Like now both companies have the right to sell that formula or that mixture of the drink. So now they're both not making increases, you know? They're not making their profits are not increasing. They're the same, because people can say, "Okay, well, let's just get this because it's the same thing."
Well, wouldn't it be more like, okay, RC,
because that would then, if the RC was cheaper, then that would force Coke to drop the price in order to be able to compete, because it's the exact same thing, right?
Yeah, let's say
so
RC,
then they're both cheap.
All right, but let's say RC makes a product that's equally or even better than Coke. Then Coke would have to step up their game and either drop their prices or create a product that's better than RC and then produce a better version of the cola in general, and also maybe lower their prices.
But that's what I'm saying. That's something that sounds good on paper, but in actuality, you got to realize.
Well, the other thing also sounds good on paper, though.
No. Think about it. Okay, well, I'm not gonna say no, because I'm gonna listen to what your argument is. But what I'm trying to argue is that that's not ideal. Ideally, that's what you'd want to happen. You'd want that competition. You'd want both of the things to step up, but that's not what happens with this thing. They settle for like, okay, it's not the original, but we're gonna sell it cheaper, and it's not the same quality.
Yeah, but like when you implement regulations, you also have to raise the price of whatever product that you're making because of the regulations themselves. Companies have to pay those regulations. They have to pay for all these things, like all these fees that come in. Like for example, if you are in a vicinity where there's gas, you have to allow the fire department to come in and check that everything is okay, and then you have to pay them like a $400 fee. Like if your business requires gas, like let's say for example, let's say a restaurant uses gas to like furnace their stoves. They need the fire department every now and then to come in and check that everything's okay, that there's a safe route for people to escape, that there's fire extinguishers, and you have to then pay them that fee, which is a form of regulations. You have to pay the firefighters a $400 fee, or if your restaurant's bigger, you have to pay them an even bigger regulation fee. So then this would make the restaurant drive up their prices up. Well, maybe not a restaurant, but like let's say it's a product, then they would have to drive their prices up.
Okay, but then how do you explain fast food chains like McDonald's versus like a really good restaurant, like say example Fogo de Chao?
That's an even more complicated question though, because now you're talking about chain restaurants that are owned by different managers and their own proprietors of the business. Like the CEO, yes, he's in charge of the McDonald's and stuff, but the manager is the one that's in charge of his own individual McDonald's. So they have to produce their own income and generate all that stuff. The CEO has to pay himself the regulations. The manager doesn't. The manager just has to run the business that's already been set up by McDonald's.
Okay. And then what about in the essence of a company that doesn't have chains, like it's privately owned, but they have more than one locations, like In-N-Out. Like In-N-Out is just one family. They don't have anything. Anyone outside of the family does not have a restaurant.
They do allow people to dabble in entrepreneurship in terms of like becoming a manager of an In-N-Out. They themselves are not tied to the owners of the In-N-Out franchise, but they are their own owner of the In-N-Out. like as a manager.
But that's with any business. There's gonna be managers. There's gonna be lower level and higher level management.
Yeah, they don't. Those people, since it's a franchise,
it doesn't come out of their pocket, so they can care less. All they need to do is make money for that store.
Exactly, because they're the franchisor, the franchisee. They don't own In-N-Out, but they do own their own individual shop, so they don't have to pay the regulations.
No, but In-N-Out doesn't do that. They don't. Like literally, In-N-Out does not
franchise.
They don't franchise. It's just family. Mm-hmm. So an example of that, like what can you?
Well, they do pay regulation fees, and they do
they
all
pay
those
them,
things.
but
yeah.
But there's no privately owned In-N-Outs, So it's not like you can say, oh, okay, so everyone's individual. Everyone finds their way. Like everyone has to make their own money. Like it all comes back to one person.
Well, here's the argument, the Republican argument or the conservative argument has always been that they refer back to John Locke. He's a political philosopher that has shaped this question of a free market economy where people don't have to be constrained by regulations that the government imposes, because people that are entrepreneurs that are trying to make their franchise or their business, if it's not a franchise, come up, the thing that they hate the most is when the government starts taking away their money through these regulations. They hate that because that stops growth or at least slows it down. That's always been an argument.
Yeah, but look, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. That because other countries, like the example, Canada, they're selling this stuff so cheap, it forces the U.S. to...
Or maybe they sell it so cheap because they don't have regulations.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And those regulations make it harder for us to get cheap prices. Because we're the ones creating this, and they're just making copies, but it's not going into our economy, So we're losing out on that.
Okay, so we sell the product that we make in the U.S. to Canada, and Canada makes replications of our product because they don't have those laws to protect the U.S. from losing money.
Yeah.
Okay, I get what you're saying now.
So in terms of the economy, we lose out on that.
Yeah.
We don't make money, and that's why it's expensive, because we have to make up for them making those copies.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
The only thing you could do then is like stop giving Canada your products. You can't force them to like impose regulations and to abide by our rules.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, but it would be a good idea to like not impose, but I guess propose like some kind of treaty where you agree, like, okay, we'll keep this at a steady price, like with oil,
But
like,
they're
we'll
not
keep
gonna,
this at a steady price,
that,
and
though.
Exactly.
You said it yourself, because they have to drive prices up.
Because they're making profit right now. But
exactly, because they have no regulations.
It's not going to work in the long run. They're only going to make money for so long. They're not going to continue to keep making that money forever. Like after a certain amount of that purchased product, you start to see like a plateau or maybe even a decline, because people are getting healthier, people are getting the treatment, so people don't have to use it for as long as they had to before. And I mean, ideally that would be a good thing. Yeah, you don't want people to be sick, but that's not the reality. People are gonna get sick.
Yeah,
and it's gonna hurt our economy, and it's gonna make these medicines and treatments more expensive, because now they have to compete with someone who you said is selling it way cheaper, but we're not seeing any of that money, even though that is ours. It's like, say if you steal my
but how does that affect people here, though? How does that affect
it's
people here?
It's making the medicine more expensive here.
It doesn't make the medicine. It does. Here. How does that make our medicine more expensive?
Because we're not getting profit from their sales. It's being sold. It's being copied. Say you steal my.
But that has nothing to do with the domestic market.
It does, because say, for example, you steal my recipe for what, like lemonade, okay? And you go and you sell it cheaper than me, but it's the same thing. And like, you're selling my product and I'm making no money off of it.
Okay.
Like, say there's some secret ingredient, that only I have.
All right, no.
But you take my lemonade and you figure out what's in there.
Okay.
And you sell it for yourself.
How does that make your lemonade more expensive for the people that want to buy your lemonade aside from my lemonade?
Because you're selling it cheaper, so that forces me to have to like.
Yeah, look, you sell lemonade, I get your formula, I steal it from you, I go to a different country where I can make it, right? How does that make your lemonade more expensive for the people that are in your country trying to buy that from you?
Because people are gonna go to your country because it's cheaper, even though it's not the original.
People
And they're gonna send that money into your economy, and not our own. So you see what I mean? Like that money goes into other people's economy.
I still don't know
So
exactly how that makes your prices go up though.
Because there's a gap in sales. You're not selling it because they're buying it over there for cheaper. So you can't change the price, because if you drop it, then you don't have those same funds, you don't have that same amount of money to keep making like top quality medicine. You got to understand that this is not the same quality. America definitely by far has better medical treatment than Canada.
Yeah.
It's not free, it's not cheap, but definitely it's way better quality. And it's known. You can look it up. Like the information is there.
Yeah.
Because it's just copies of
I'm not saying
countries.
I'm not saying that Canada has better health or that has
It's
better
just
health
cheaper.
treatment.
It's just cheaper.
But yeah, it's cheaper because they also have free medical care. I don't know if you know that they have free health care, and that maybe also contributes to why the medicine there is so cheap. But it may not have to do anything with regulations.
I mean, yeah, that could be, but still, I feel like we lose a lot of money in that. And
Yeah, I don't see how that has a correlation to increasing the amount of money that goes into paying for medicine here, though.
It's like I said, people like to blame capitalism. They like to blame the top 1%. But
the top 1% doesn't like regulations.
Exactly. So, but think about it. A company that's going to make money, they're going to do what they can to produce the best quality at a price that they can afford, you know?
Yeah.
Because obviously you wanna be the best.
Yeah.
But you want to make money too. So you're going to have to find some equilibrium and a price, and without people contributing to our medical economy.
Oh, shit. I mean, your camera just died, man, because it's already 1 hour and 60 minutes in, so my bad about that. So
now you're good.
I think we'll just cut it short here then.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't have no information on this topic at all, so I couldn't give you a good word of advice or like a good solid piece of information on what I believe is going on here, because I don't have numbers. I don't have any of that stuff. I haven't done any research on regulations about medicine abroad and then medicine here. I haven't done any correlation, any kind of research on the correlation between their prices and our prices, and what's the causing factor for that. So I can't tell you solidly that I'm with you or that I'm against you. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like the essence of it is that we're losing out on money because people are not spending it here. So it forces us.
See, I don't know how true that is, though.
No. I'm not saying it's 100% truth.
Okay.
But I'm saying from data available, statistics, like, you know, just stuff that I've read, like it's because of, I guess, that lack of competition. You know, like they're just making cheaper stuff.
I think if you really did your research and you went into how layered this thing is, then you'd find that there's a lot of other reasons why our prices are different
obviously,
from Canada's.
you know, this is just kind of like the surface of it.
But like I said, I have no position on this because I don't know. Yeah. So I'll cut that conversation there for now, and we'll maybe get into it later when I have more information on this. My laptop's dying too, so again. Episode 20 is now over, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the content, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment on what you'd like to see in this channel. Just stuff like that. Thanks for supporting the channel. I'm really grateful for all the 351 subscribers that have already gone on to the next step and actually subscribed to my channel. So thanks to all of you guys that are out there being loyal to this show. And Tellez, man, thanks for being on here tonight.
All right, man. Thank you.